to the Employees Retirement System Board meeting, March 10th, 2021 at 12 p.m. This will be an electronic remote participation meeting being via GoTo. And we'll start with roll call. Chairman Calise.
Present.
Trustee Gordon.
Here.
Trustee Bovenseat.
Here.
Trustee Dungeon.
Here.
Trustee Malzik's here. Trustee Miller is absent. And Trustee Hamilton.
Here.
Okay. Public comment. There was no public comment today. Minutes from the February 10th meeting. I need a motion and a support.
I'll move to approve the minutes.
Support.
Okay. Motion by Bovenseat, support by Dungeon. Any discussion? Okay, let's do a roll call on that. Trustee Bovenseat.
Yes.
Trustee Dungeon.
Yes.
Trustee Gordon.
Yes.
Chairman Calise.
Abstain because I was not present.
Okay. Trustee Hamilton.
Yes.
And Trustee Malzik, yes. Item passed 5-0. Retirement requests. We have 3 this time. We have 2 from the defined benefit and 1 from DC. And can I get a motion and a support in these 2?
Move that we approve the retirement request of those 3 individuals as printed in the agenda.
Motion by Bovenseat, support by Calise. Any discussion? Okay, we'll do another roll call. Trustee Bovenseat.
Yes.
Chairman Calise.
Yes.
Trustee Gordon.
Yes.
Trustee Hamilton.
Yes.
Trustee Dungeon.
Yes.
Trustee Malzik. Item passed 6-0. Let's see. Oh, we're already to regular business. So just today, guys, what we're going to be talking about is our consultant, NBC, Mark Woolheiser and Joe Warsecki, they're going to talk about the implementation of our new funds with ICMA, and also Ray Fortin and Rola Ismail are here from ICMA. So, Mark, you're on.
Good afternoon, everyone. You can hear me okay? You always got to start with that with technology. We're going to typically use these meetings as a selection and monitoring session to go through our independent analysis on all the funds. But what we decided to do today is, because we're overhauling the entire menu, and we've worked very, very hard on this, and we're excited for you. The actual changes are going to take place April 26th. So we're 6 weeks away from the transfer. What we wanted to do is get your input and get your feedback on an implementation timeline. And we're going to go through the slideshow that we've created for the participants. We want to get your feedback on it. Feel free to give us any ideas, suggestions, or enhancements. And then how many of these webinars should we do? We're thinking about, at the end of this presentation, we'll show you maybe 4 webinars that we've selected and the dates and what are the best times for your group. We really want to hear from you. So we're excited about this. We got a huge cost savings going in place. The cost of this program is going from almost 0.69 down to 0.31. So great news for the city, great news for the participants. The board is in a great position to present these to the participants, and we just want to work as your advocate. So we're looking for your input. My team is Joe Warsecki from my office, the consulting role. And we've got Ray and Rola here from ICMA. And without further ado, we're going to go through this presentation and get your feedback and put a timeline in place. Right?
Yep. You guys can hear me, right?
Yep.
Okay. So we've got 20 slides we put together, and keep in mind, this is for the employees. This is the participants are going to see this. we want to obviously get across to them the work that's been done by Mark and his team to bring down the cost and illustrate to them the cost savings, but also get across to them the fact not only is their cost going down, but the resources that are available to them to understand their new investment options and help them pick the best choices that are right for them and saving for the retirement. So keep that in mind. There's about 20 slides. I'm not going to go through this as if we were presenting to the participants. I may a little bit, but again, as Mark indicated, it's more for your guys' preview to understand the point we're trying to get across and to make sure that we're doing so. Obviously, this page is the basically the agenda, the start of the discussion. We'll talk with them about the changes in the investments, who MBC is, because the MBC Investment Consulting would be new to the employee base because of Mark's relationship being new to the city. Give some examples of the changes, and then obviously talk about the resources that are available to them on a going forward basis, and that really have always been there from Rola's perspective and what she does with the employees. Could you go to the next slide, please?
Thanks, Shazia.
So this one, obviously, we're talking about the investment lineup, the changes, how we've streamlined the changes. There's going to be fewer investment options. We think fewer is better than having more. The due diligence and what went behind the choices, and then again talking about the local contact resources from an education perspective that Rola brings to the employees. Next, please. The investment oversight. Here's where we're going to talk about Mark and his team, what they're all about, what they bring to the table, and what's been part of the overall review of the funds. Some of the name brand investment options that have been added, you can see here: Fidelity, T. Rowe Price, BlackRock, and then obviously we're going to emphasize the lower cost structure that they have and the benefit to them of lowering the fees and for saving for retirement. Here's an example we're going to discuss with regards to the 457 401A fund lineup example. On the left-hand side, you can see the current investment lineup and the appropriate expense ratio for each one of those funds. Please note that this is not the entire investment lineup. This is just a snapshot of various funds and examples and of investments that are heavily used. On the right-hand side, you'll see the new fund, where the money, the old fund, and then what's the assets are going to map over to this new fund, and the new expense ratio on the right-hand side column there. So you can see.
Can I interject? Yeah. Plus, you get to take a break, which is fun too. So it's tough to go on for 20 minutes. This morning, I actually worked on the retiree healthcare with my office, and if you'll look at the Vantage Point Milestone Fund 2040, we're currently paying 59 basis points for that fund. It's going to go to a BlackRock fund at 9 basis points. The retiree healthcare is all target funds, so it's all Vantage Point Milestone target funds, 5.3 of the 6.5 million. So all of those funds are going to go from a 59 type of basis point to BlackRock at 9 basis points. So that's an additional savings that we didn't even talk about in the last meeting. You know, if you go from 60 to 9, it's 50 basis points. That's another $30,000 of plan cost savings we found today. Because I knew there was a large percentage in targets, but I didn't realize almost all the money was in there. So that's going to be a great pickup for participants. It's going to be well received.
Yeah, good. Yeah, good point, Mark. The majority, as you know, obviously the assets in the RHS are going to that target date fund because it's a newer plan, and most people are defaulted, and that's why they're going to the target date fund. So that's why you see the preponderance of dollars there. Next page, please. So here's an example, basically kind of what Mark just outlined, but for the 457 401. We give an example of the long-term model portfolio that came in at 72 basis points. The existing fund, it's getting mapped over to Vanguard Life Strategies portfolio at a much lower expense ratio. You can see 13 basis points. We're going to explain to the employees that there is a administrative fee that is now part of the overall cost structure, which you are well aware of, at 3 basis points, which they did not have before. But even with that 3 basis points on top of the 13 basis points for this new fund, for a total of 16, they're still well below the 72 from the previous fund that they had for this example. This is just one example of the cost savings there. And, we hope we'll highlight this. And obviously there could be some questions around this from the participants, and we'll take those. But we think this is a good example of the more detail on the cost savings going from old to new.
Just a quick comment that 13 basis points doesn't read as 13 basis points. Looks like
I agree.
Missing
Yeah,
the decimal point here.
It looks as 13%. Yeah, I'll put the decimal. We'll put the decimal point back in there. Good catch.
Good
Thank
point.
you.
Good catch.
Next page, please. So we have the same type of example for the RHS plan that we had for the 401, 457 here. Obviously, Mark brought up the with the target date funds, and you can see that illustrated on this page. But it has some of the same investment options there, and we'll make adjustments to this page to illustrate that. Next page. So basically, here's the example Mark gave on the going from the milestone target date funds to the BlackRock target date funds. This is specific to the RHS. The administrative fee structure is different for the RHS than the 401, 457. As you know, obviously the asset levels are quite a bit lower than the qualified plan side. The RHS is a lot lower, so that's why the administrative charge is larger. But even with the addition of the administrative fee and the new expenses for the funds, they're still lower than what the old existing structure was from a cost perspective. We'll make sure we get that point across as well. Next page, please. One page on the Vantage Point Plus Fund. Talk about the advantages and what this fund is all about. The crediting rate, your conservative investment option. A lot of dollars are invested in this, so we thought it important to highlight this particular fund and why you would use it. And the expense ratio did go down for this fund as well. It was at a R10 share class, now it's an R13 share class, so the expense ratio went down quite a bit.
Not only that, if I may interject,
Please.
about what's going to happen with the net returns there. We're sitting here on $17 million that was crediting at 2.05%, will now automatically be bumped up almost 20 basis points. So if you're in this fund and you're risk adverse, or you're a retiree and you're receiving 2.02 net return, you're going to be bumped up all the way to 2.28% from day one on April 26th. So that's a big pickup for the risk adverse group as well.
Next page.
Hold on a second. Mr. Calise, did you have a question? Or Mark, please?
Yes, I do. Going back to the previous page, am I please explain, the 10-year performance on this is 2.49%. Is that what I'm seeing? Is that total?
That's correct.
Are you, that to me is an embarrassment. How can I do so poorly?
Well, this is a stable value fund, guaranteed not to lose principal. So it's your most conservative investment option out there. It's really pegged to what interest rates are in the marketplace. The underlying bond portfolio has a wrapper around it where we get the guarantee from. And so when a similar type of investment out there in the marketplace is really a money market fund or a savings type of account. And so the performance, is based on where interest rates are, and how low interest rates are and the type of return or savings yield you get in a savings account at a bank, and 2.49 is pretty good.
Is that explained to the investor that this is like a savings or a money market? Again, as far as an investment goes, I would be embarrassed to show that to anybody without it. Now, if you explain it's equivalent to what you could get in a savings account of 0.01 or whatever, that may make sense. But would the participant be made aware? Would they know what they're doing to commit money for a 10-year period, previous 10 years, and only see a 2.49% return?
This investment option is basic for individuals as they near retirement and get in retirement or are very conservative. But we were certainly illustrate and communicate to them the reason they would want to invest in this type of investment option as part of their overall asset allocation or diversification strategy. This certainly is not a one-stop shop or one investment option for people, or we certainly would not encourage individuals to this be their only investment option. That being said, you and I know there are individuals that, for whatever reason, don't understand investing and are very risk adverse, and this is the type of investment they tend to go towards.
Trustee Calise, I agree with you. I think that the education moving forward is critical. And I think it's really critical that we educate participants that this is a fund really you don't want to be in. And as Ray said, there's going to be defaults. Some people are going to use it. There's better choices for risk adverse folks today. And I think it's important as far as this education rollouts that we show them this is comparable to the Comerica Money Market Fund. And I think the education is really important on this fund. I agree with you.
Okay.
And I was going to just say, hey, Mark Calise, I was just going to say to you also, I have real life examples of what happened in 2008 and 9. I had two people in Warren that basically made the same amount of money, were in the DC. One guy wrote out the down part and stayed in equities, and let's just say approximately hit $1 million when I left a year ago. And his counterpart lost all the money, got frightened, put it into this exact fund, and he's sitting at like $350,000 in comparison. So you're right. It's I've seen some really bad mistakes made by people, and it's part of our job between ICMA and Mark Wohlheiser's group, Joe Warsecki, to educate these people as the best that we can. I feel like that's our obligation to do so.
Agreed.
Yeah, Rob, I'll just add that this fund, though, for safe money, you can't get anywhere close to that type of return for somebody that, for whatever reason, has a need to have safety to get 2 to 2.49%. It's a fantastic rate that you're not going to be able to get on the open market anywhere at a bank or anything else. So for people that do need to use this and they understand why they need to use it, it's a great rate.
Okay, and that you just said it, if they understand what they're doing. And I agree. And the last thing, the majority of the new funds are going into default. I believe that was stated a few minutes ago.
For the RHS plan, the majority of the assets currently are in the target date fund series, which is the default investment option.
Okay, and I guess just to further that, now quiet. If the majority is going into the default because they don't understand, or it's just they're in the plan and they're just going to let it happen, I think we're missing the boat by saying that they're going to save 30 basis points. They're going to save fees. They're going to save fees when they might not even know what they're in. And more, from my personal perspective, what am I going to get at the end of the game? You know, if it's just to say that I'm going to save 30 basis points, one, the average Joe that's in default probably doesn't even know what 30 basis points is. They
So Mark, I can tell you this is that in some organizations, the default will actually be this fund here that you're looking at. At least our default is actually in a blended plan, you know, with equities and some fixed income. So that's actually a good thing. I'll defer that to Mark and Joe, though. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, 100%. We only have, the good news is we only have 12% of our assets in this fund. Yeah, I agree totally.
Okay.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Trustee Hamilton.
Yeah, Mark kind of covered some of what I was going to say, but I know that like there's a lot of studies on 401k plans that show that the default option is so often what everyone just takes. So it is very critically important that we default people to the option that's probably what we think is most favorable to them. I think we are defaulting to the target retirement fund, which is a good thing. So I'm happy with that. Get back to me. Let me rethink about, because Mark kind of covered a lot of what I was going to say. So I'll come back. Let me redo my thoughts on everything.
Sure. Rolla, did you want to say something? Or are you frozen? No, she's frozen. Okay, go ahead, Ray.
All right.
Hands up though.
Yeah. Well, this is the kind of this is great because this is the kind of feedback we wanted to hear. So we can tweak our message to the employee base. You looked at this page differently than maybe we looked at it initially. So you raised some good points, and we will make sure that we are articulating to the employees when we go through this presentation with them what this fund's all about, why you would invest in it, and why you would not invest in it, probably more importantly. So very good points. Thank you. Next page.
Chairman Mosick, I've got my thoughts together now. I can take the floor.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so what graphs I often find very effective to teach people why saving 30 basis points or whatever it is so critical is you'll see those return on investment over 20, 30-year margin type of graphs, and what 100 basis points or what 10 basis points or what 50 basis points will differ that. And you usually see a substantial difference of hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars. So I think that kind of graph to show what savings and basis points will give you back in 20, 30 years is a really effective thing
That's
to show.
great feedback. That's great feedback.
Yeah, I've seen that in different areas. And yeah, and I know Ford, for example, back to the previous point with the default option, Ford puts I work for Ford, I'm an engineer at Ford, so we have our retirement plan. The contributions that we put in are defaulted, I think, to a target retirement fund, but then the matching funds that Ford replies defaults to Ford's stock fund, which is just Ford stock, which is terrible. Yet something like 20% of Ford retirement accounts are in Ford stock, which I think is not a great idea. So I'm glad, let's make sure our default option is what's ideal for whoever is getting it. And so that was a follow-up to my other point.
And I agree with you. I agree with you, Councilman Hamilton, because I'll tell you, after Enron, a lot of people lost their retirements because all their retirements were in that. So when I was at Ford many years ago, we talked about just that very thing about how, you can question what percent of your portfolio or retirement you should have in the company that pays you your paycheck. So good points. Thank you. Go ahead, Ray.
All right. Well, you've kind of laid the groundwork for the target date funds, because that was the next slide here. We're talking about the new BlackRock LifePath retirement target date funds here that are replacing the milestone funds. So we're going to get into a discussion here about them and how they work. And if you go to the next page, please. for those that don't understand target date funds and how they work, we illustrate to them that they are a diversified asset allocation portfolio made up of different types of assets, being money market, fixed income, and equities, into this target date fund, which is based upon the individual's date of birth and the approximate time of when they would be retiring. And if you'd go to the following page. We talk about how over time that asset allocation changes. So for those that are younger, the asset allocation and diversification is more aggressive with a higher amount towards equities versus fixed income. And as you get closer to retirement and through retirement, that allocation gets more conservative in nature. So, we're going to have a good conversation on target date funds and their usage and how they work with these last three slides. Next page, please. Here we get into some of the other types of advice that we can give with regards to our guided pathways. This is our managed accounts service where an individual could engage us to prepare the asset allocation for them on their own behalf based upon their own individual circumstances. So we'll talk about this here. Note, we got to update this particular slide because it talks about for fund advice at the bottom, there's a $20 annual fee. There is no $20 annual fee. So I'm going to revise this slide to remove that. There is no charge for this, for that particular portion of the guided pathways. But for the managed accounts side of things, there is a fee individuals could have if they decided to use that. And we'll let Rola talk about that at the time when we're talking about this particular side with the employees.
Ray, thank you for deferring it to me. I wanted to weigh in earlier regarding the education and the plus fund. I raised my hand, but I don't know if the connection probably was crazy. We do the employee meetings, and basically we want to make sure, one, your work as a board, which is magnificent here, is communicated to the participants. You have all worked joined together to bring in a better plan, literally, lower fees, more performance. Mark's leadership was great in choosing and selecting these funds. And what I do and what my team does, we have a whole educational plan set for the city of Troy to help participants understand in simple English. We don't use acronyms. We talk to the participants, make sure they understand. Why, to begin with, why should they enroll beyond the 401? What benefits will it give them? Tax basis, tax deduction, what type of investments they have. There is the default, but we are working with the city and with Rob's permission and Lisa Berman's permission. We're already reaching out to people who are retiring, and I've already met with a couple of the people who are retiring on a monthly basis. And also we'd like to reach out to new hires. In addition, the existing participants, I am reaching out and I'm actually meeting with around 1 or 2 people from the city of Troy on a daily basis now. We have allocated 4 full days just for the participants of the city of Troy. In addition, anybody can reach out to me and we'll gladly go over their accounts, explaining the investment, what is the plus fund. When, like, for example, the 10-year treasury is 1.5%. If you want cash, you have an option of around 2.25%. It's not a good option in the long run. Let us help you. You can either pick and choose your funds, or you can have simple diversified funds, like now the BlackRock funds, that are geared when you want to retire or how you feel about risk. Or if you want us to manage your funds, we can help you through the managed account. So my job is to explain that. In addition, we have professional money managers that will do consultations that are for free if somebody is open to do that. And we have certified financial planners that have webinars, and they can schedule on-site, no charge financial plans for those who are eligible. We gladly recircle, and if you want us to change, do more of one thing, change the delivery, whatever you'd like, but we are working together with the city to make sure every single participant understands what all of you are doing an amazing job, and commend you on that, and make the most of it. Be engaged, participate, and benefit out of it.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Rolla.
Thanks, Rolla. Okay.
We're on a time constraint, Ray, so I'm going to throw it back to you. Let's wrap up.
Yep, next page. So this is just a piece, again, what Rolla kind of already talked about, rolling over money, how to roll over money and get it into the plan if you have other assets outside and you want to consolidate for ease of use and efficiency. We'll talk about that with the participants. Next page, please. An illustration on saving, why saving in the 457 on top of the 401A is important, and how that money can grow over time by investing so much through your payroll deduction and how that grows. Rolla kind of just talked about that topic there, so we're going to dwell on that with this particular slide. Next slide, please. And then talking about the access they have to information through ICMA's record-keeping system and the education center, all the resources that are available to them. We're going to talk about that. And then next page should be the last one, I believe. And yes, talk about the action items. Mark, my apologies. I told you it was April 26th. That is April 23rd for the investment changes. So my apologies for giving you the wrong day there, but it is the 23rd. We'll go through the timeline with them and what's going to happen and the communication they're going to receive related to this. And then finally with the last page, I think it's the last page, the next one, we get into the action items and Rolla's information and working with them beyond just the meeting that we're going to have, these four meeting group sessions, and how they can meet with Rolla one-on-one to discuss anything related to their investments. We'll do that. So I think that's it from my perspective. Joe was going to talk about the rollout and when we're going to have these meetings. We talked about having 4 individual meetings, so I'll let Joe take over there and get your feedback on that.
Yeah, so we were just, our idea was to do a meeting on April 14th, April 15th, and on the 21st. So 3 meetings before the transfer date on the 23rd, and then a 4th meeting on May 6th. That we found in the past that people miss these meetings beforehand and realize changes happen. So we feel it's good to have one after the fact as well, because there's going to be people that don't pay attention and they realize some changes happened, and we'll have a meeting available for those people as well on the 6th. So,
Hey, Joe, I bet you May 6th is probably your most popular meeting, right?
Well, for some of the people that realize, hey, what happened? All of a sudden their interest level has peaked. So, so we've got those dates earmarked, unless there's a problem with Troy for any of those days. We'd like to run with those, and if you have any feedback as to what time we should do them.
We're looking for your feedback, though. So those are 4 meetings. We want to hear from you. If you need more, less, or what times are best for you, we're looking for feedback from you, especially from human resources and finance, as to how to structure it. And just want to clarify, these are webinars. These are not face-to-face meetings. I think based on the current situation, we're still in webinar mode.
Right. So no, those look good. I like the idea of the 4 meetings, and I like that there's one after, because I think from our previous experiences, we know that there's a good percentage of people that will ignore every email we send them. So no, this is good. I'm glad you. Hey, Rolla, can you mute? Thanks. Does any board members have any comments, questions, concerns as we start rolling this forward? Go ahead, Kurt.
As I mentioned before, I'm excited to roll this out. I think this is our first attempt to really look at the defined contribution enrollees and do something great for them. I'm certainly going to advocate that employees participate in the webinar, and we'll make sure that we set something here up at Public Works so everyone that wants to participate can, because I think this is great information, and I agree, most people don't recognize the importance of managing their own retirement fund, especially as we get younger employees hired, and it is very important. So I really appreciate this effort. I do have one question for NBC. How does that role look like if I would prefer to have a consultation, or an employee or enrollee would prefer to have a consultation with NBC? What are they offering other than what ICMA is offering? What's the difference between the two?
I can answer. If someone has an interest level in knowing, first of all, what NBC is doing, but if also they would like to have a individual consultation from somebody outside of ICMA, I'm a certified financial planner, and I'm available to do those meetings and make ourselves available. We have other people on our education team if it turns into something that we need more bandwidth. But so we're there and available. And as a independent third party certified financial planner, I can sit down with people and give them my insight as to what their particular questions might be. And it's nothing against ICMA, but ICMA has their own window that they're looking through, where as we are for the city, we're independent consultants, and I'm an independent planner.
That's great. I think that you're going to see enrollees really take advantage of that opportunity, because I know in the past there's been comments that you go through the company that's offering the plans, there's not much oversight. They're going to tell you that everything's great because they're the ones that are offering the plan. So I think having the third party and the ability for enrollees to participate in that third party is really going to be a good thing.
And we will cover that in the webinar when I do the NBC introduction and what our role is. So people will have an opportunity to understand that better. And I also wanted to let the group know if things change at a couple other municipalities right now, they're starting to contemplate having us come in person and do some of these meetings. So between now and then, if something changes and you would like me there to do an in-person smaller group presentation, if something changes and you want me to do that, I'm not opposed to doing that, but we'll do whatever City of Troy wants us to do.
Kurt, what we're seeing is the need is ICMA conducts the enrollment process, but we're seeing the need that customers 10 to 25% want an independent analysis, and that's exactly what you asked for, and you articulated it well, and we're able to do that.
Right. And then one other thing that Kurt and I learned just yesterday, we were going with HR, going over some, we're about ready to do some union negotiations, and we noticed that in Kurt's group, now more than 50% of the employees are in the RHS. So what does that mean? That means that the older folks are retiring who have retiree health care, and RHS is becoming even more and more important to our organization. Fair statement, Kurt?
Absolutely. Yeah. Well said, Rob.
Okay. Yeah. Anyone else from the board have a question? Peter, Tom? You guys are good? Okay. All right. Well, thank you, ICMA. Thank you, NBC. Mark, did you have more you wanted to say?
We're really excited we're earmarking April 14th and 15th. We're just very
Yeah.
excited. This is going to be a huge benefit to the participants, and the board is really going to look good after this is done. It's a huge overhaul. I think you're going to get great PR, and I think participants are going to save money and improve historical returns. So it's a win-win.
Okay, thank you. And then just to Joe's point, and I was going to bring this up later in the meeting, but you know, we're still playing by a lot of rules from the state of Michigan. So as it relates to this board and our future meetings, I talked to Bob Bruner, who's our assistant city manager, and it's looking like if nothing changes in April, this board would be in person at City Hall in the council chambers. Kurt, are you guys putting up some dividers? Do you want to speak on that at all, or?
Sure. You know, we started our efforts in making City Hall safe almost a year ago, and we have a lot of the safety measures already in place. Specific to council chambers, we're now working on making plastic partitions between each seat. The partitions are actually going to go well beyond the dias because how the chairs are positioned. So the plastic partitions are going to be about 6 to 7 feet deep, if you will. So there won't be any opportunity for any aerosol spray in between the people at the dais. And then if there was any public comment, the podium would also have a partition around it. So and then of course the sanitization, we've upgraded the filtration system in City Hall to what's called a MERV 13. And we've increased the exterior flow, so it's getting more outside air into City Hall. So I think we've made it as practically as safe as we possibly can to host those meetings in person again.
Great, thanks, Kurt. Yeah, so our next meeting is April 14th, and I think it's just a matter of wait and see based upon based upon governor's orders, et cetera, et cetera. So we'll keep you updated on that. So Joe, thank you. And yeah, we'll, I think, society's split in two still with, in person versus not in person stuff. So I appreciate your flexibility as well. All right. Mark, Joe, Lola, Ray, thank you so much. We appreciate it. We're going to move on with our agenda. And thanks for all your guys' hard work on this. I know this is not easy, and this is a lot of hard work, so thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob. Thank you, everybody. Have a good one.
All right. Next items, investments. Those are out there from Greystone and UBS. They're more informational than anything else. Both February portfolios are above where we were in December, so that's good news. I checked on the Morgan Stanley one today. I have access to that one online, and we're updating from February, which is good news. And does anyone have any comments they want to talk about on these portfolios today or no? Okay. Any other business that anyone wants to bring up? Okay, seeing none, I guess we'll just adjourn, and thank you everyone for all your time today, and appreciate it, and we'll see you guys next month.